What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. Okay, so the drone situation is still very much weird. There are a lot of actions that the DoD is taking that are making no sense at all. First, they say that they're harmless and that they're not to worry about, and then they're saying that they're giving the authority to local police to shoot at them.
Kelly.
Just to follow up more a bit on drones, I just wanted to ask about the federal ban on drone operations in parts of New Jersey. The government, they say, may use, quote, deadly force against the drones if they pose an imminent security threat. Who would shoot them down if it came to it? Would that be DoD assets?
So a couple things. So first of all, I would note that that is standard security language included in national security NOTAMs and temporary flight restrictions. So FAA certainly could talk to you more about that. And as you've heard us say, we're going to work closely with the FBI, DHS, FAA to make sure that we're harmonizing our on-base efforts with anything that they're doing off-base. And, you know, the bottom line is that our forces, our commanders, if they observe UAS activity that they believe represents a threat, they have the authority to conduct mitigation operations based on the capability at their location. And as I highlighted, you know, one of those capabilities could be the non-kinetic, interruption of signals, for example.
Especially the ones that are oversensitive military installations. So I'm confused. If they're not dangerous in any way, why are you allowing for them to be shot at? That doesn't make sense. We could be dealing with multiple things, right? So last Tuesday, Christian Harloff released his UAP Tuesday show, and he showed a live stream on Facebook of a lady that was recording one of these orbs at a golf course in Florida, I think it was. And there's a really weird moment where this orb suddenly turns into one of these drones and it starts blinking the lights like a drone.
Look, here it is. This is the source of light that always finds me. Look at this. This thing keeps finding me everywhere. Look at that. It stands right there and it just starts to flash. Watch. Watch this. It's really, really, really bright. It's like either shining a spotlight. It looks like a flashlight in the sky. And there is another orb up there. You see it? Right there. So there's usually another drone or spacecraft or whatever the heck that is that's next to it. I don't know. It's like they're feeding off of each other. Okay, I got the sprinklers. Here we are. Sprinklers are here. Okay, you see it? You see how it goes? See how it goes? And then it becomes a spacecraft or aircraft or whatever you want to call it, UAP. It transforms into a craft. Right in front of my eyes. Can't make this up. And there it goes. It's off.
And we're just wondering why is this happening? If this video is legit, which it does seem like it was. She was live streaming. She recorded this on live stream. What if some, not all of them, some of these orbs are in fact some type of UAP that we don't understand? It's possible. I wanted to let you guys know, amid all the confusion that is taking place, you can see at least 3 different camps taking 3 different approaches to this. One of them is Lou Elizondo, who is keeping the options open. But as you guys know, this disclosure process from the government has a lot of inconsistencies that I think make people not trust any of these people. There's also the camp of Danny Sheehan and Richard Dolan and all the more old school ufologists, you could say. They are keeping the options open for this to be NHI. Unlike Lou and all the people who support him are also keeping the options open for this to be some potential new technology. This new technology that could potentially be the case that us humans discovered some kind of novel propulsion was already mentioned in a podcast by none other than Dr. Hal Puthoff. He talked about 0-point energy and talked about novel propulsion and talked about new physics.
So-called empty space isn't really empty at all. It's actually full of energy. So instead of being like kind of a quiet, empty lake, it's more like the froth at the base of a waterfall or something. And this energy is basically electromagnetic in nature, and the energy density is quite high. In fact, it's so high that when it was first discovered mathematically, it was thought to be some kind of artifact of the mathematics. But then as time went on, there were even Nobel Prize winning experiments that showed that this energy in so-called empty space was really there. We don't usually notice it because it's so homogeneously distributed. It'd sort of be like sitting in a bathtub with at exactly your body temperature. You might not notice the water. But under certain circumstances, it can be disturbed or perturbed, and then it has effects. As I mentioned, some effects on atomic emission, for example, is what eventually ended up in a Nobel Prize for Willis Lamb of Yale University. It's called the Lamb shift. And this is a recognition that, in fact, this energy disturbs atoms. So atoms aren't sitting in a void, they're sitting in the sea of energy. So once quantum theorists realized that energy was there, the next question was, well, is there any way to tap it? And it was thought originally that probably not. It might be like trying to tap the heat energy around us. And you can quickly prove for thermodynamic reasons that it'll take more energy to tap it than you'd get out of it, so you don't come out ahead. But back in about 1984, a researcher at Hughes Laboratory by the name of Robert Forward showed that there was a particular effect called the Casimir effect, which demonstrated that in fact this energy could be tapped.
And if you guys have been paying attention to my channel, I've been trying to talk about this for a little bit and mildly, not as overtly as some others have. I had Missile Man last Sunday, and we did talk about the potential for this to be some kind of new reality where the actual secret is black tech that has been used for a long time, and just now they're being more open about it. That is a possibility. And Missile Man told us that it may very well be a possibility. So we can't discard that. We need to keep an open option for that. It could be NHI, it could be both, or it could be just man-made technology. Either one is fucking crazy. I mean, if we did discover new physics, new science, and it's being kept from the public with the potential that new science or new propulsion or new energy has to help the world in reversing climate change and helping the environment, it would make sense that the biggest corporations that could potentially lose a lot of their net worth just for accepting that there is this new technology, you can understand why they're keeping it from the people if it does exist. And then there's the other camp that they just talked about this today in multiple spaces, and I want to hear your thoughts about this. Dr. Stephen Greer. So you guys know him. He's been active in the disclosure movement since the 90s. He's a surgeon. He has released multiple documentaries that are very eye-opening. One of them is Unacknowledged, which is still one of my favorites to this day. There are others that he released over the years. There's the Sirius project. There's the Lost Century, which is very recent. And since the drone flap started, drone UFOs, whatever you want to call them, he's been saying that he predicted this, that he knew about this false flag operation that the government, or the shadow government, as he calls it, is enacting a plan that they had of deceiving the public with a fake alien invasion so they can control the population, essentially. That's what he's been saying forever. He also thinks and says that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin's, and that we've had reverse engineered ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles, since the 50s at least. None of that has been proven yet. This latest clue from Hal Puthoff is, I think, one of the few like really reliable sources that we can believe in terms of new technology or new propulsion. But the fact that Dr. Stephen Greer is talking about this and nobody's paying attention to him, or not everybody, does have a reason. I generally don't report on Dr. Stephen Greer's work because I know, and I managed to recognize that at a certain moment, the same thing happened to him as it happens to a lot of people in this space, which is they grab a certain level of power or money and they become contaminated by it. And from that moment forward, they only think about money above the work that they started doing and the cause that they started defending at the beginning. I spoke to Richard Dolan, for example, and he's always stricken me as someone who remains level-headed and down to earth. And yeah, I mean, there is a way to make a career out of reporting on this, but you got to be really careful because it is frowned upon. And I think that needs to change over time, because it makes no sense to me that someone is dedicating their lives to this, and just because they want to make a decent living out of it, they are being criticized by the highbrow researchers, the more seasoned researchers out there who think they're doing this for the good of humanity. Yes, this work is for the good of humanity, but it makes no fucking sense that we spend our entire life, our entire day working our asses off on this, and we get absolutely no compensation out of it. The only issue I have with this is if you're selling lies, or if you're overpricing stuff, or, you know, stuff like that. It needs to be accessible to everyone if you want to do it. Either way, I still think less than 5% of people in the world are currently aware of this. And the more people that come over, the less difficult it's going to be for the rest of people who are trying to report on this to make a living, if you know what I mean. But I don't think that judging others for trying to make a living out of this is fair, to be honest with you. If they're doing decent work, trying to be objective and being transparent about what they're doing, if they're not hiding anything, I see absolutely no problem. I think this is the next step in reporting on these cases. We need to be more accustomed to it and stop judging. Why would you do that? I mean, I get it. People like Dr. Greer do charge thousands of dollars to go on cruise ships and summon orbs, as he calls them. That stuff is not cool. I get it. If you want to get filthy rich doing this and you take advantage of people, yeah, you should be called out, of course. But also, I think that Dr. Greer has done a lot of work in the past that still needs to get his due credit for. And I am 100% on board with that. And if he has evidence, palpable evidence of firsthand witnesses that he can come forward with, be my guest. I will definitely report on this. In a recent space that I heard, Dr. Stephen Greer allegedly released his so-called dead man switch, which is a colloquialism they use for when one of the people involved in this dies, and there's a plethora of documents and videos that will be released if something happens to this person. I got bad news for you. This so-called Dead Man's Switch from Dr. Stephen Greer actually leaked in 2021. It's not from today. It happened 3 years ago. So if you want to check it out, I'll leave it to you in the description. So you can see he talks about a lot of stuff. It's a pretty long document, but I am going to read the summary of this document so you guys can see what the content is. I asked Grok to talk about this. Let me know what the summary of this Dead Man's Trigger or Dead Man's Switch from Dr. Stephen Greer is all about. So here it is. Here's a summary of the document titled The Dead Man's Trigger by Dr. Stephen Greer. Overview. The purpose of this document is a contingency plan released in the event of Dr. Greer's death, disappearance, or imprisonment to expose the threats and actions taken against him due to his work on UFOs and alternative energy technologies. The key points are, number one, background. Dr. Greer outlines his involvement with the Orion project, aimed at bringing out new energy systems and advanced physics that could replace fossil fuels. This work has attracted significant opposition from what he describes as a powerful secretive group he calls petro-Nazis or majestic. Number two, threats and fraud. 2008 incident. Greer describes being defrauded by Pete Summeruck, introduced by a military intelligence officer, Todd Hathaway. Summeruck, who claimed to possess a breakthrough energy technology, turned out to be a fraud, leading to the loss of $300,000 for the Orion project. 2009 threats. Greer received death and legal threats from individuals like Doug Kilpack and experienced surveillance and harassment, including being targeted by lasers and attempts to run him off the road. Involvement with Jeffrey Allen Cameron, collaboration. Greer recounts working with Jeffrey Allen Cameron, a scientist allegedly involved in classified projects, including anti-gravity and extraterrestrial technology. Cameron initially agreed to develop an energy device, but later withdrew after being influenced by disinformation and threats from intelligent operatives. Mishandling funds. Cameron failed to deliver on his promises after receiving funds from the Orion project, leading Greer to suspect him of being part of the larger scheme to discredit and financially drain their efforts. Number four, intelligence community actions. Greer details interaction with various intelligence operatives, including former CIA Director R. James Woolsey, who allegedly spread disinformation against him. He also mentions the involvement of other high-profile figures like Dick Cheney and conspiracies related to 9/11 and the suppression of technology. Number five, broader implications. Greer posits that there is an ongoing effort by a secretive group to maintain control over humanity through energy scarcity, military engagements, and the potential manipulation of an alien threat. Narrative for geopolitical control. Call to action. If this document is public, it suggests Greer might have been harmed or silenced. He calls for public awareness, investigations into these conspiracies, and resistance against what he sees as a global fascist network intent on controlling resources and information. Conclusion. The document serves as both a personal testament and a rallying cry for transparency and action against what Greer describes as oppressive forces in control of advanced technology and global affairs. So that's the summary of that. And I do got to point out one final thing. Regardless of what you think about Dr. Greer, he deserves his credit for what he did in the past. I don't think that right now he's going about it the right way, you could say, because he's charging a lot of money for many of the experiences meeting him. I also think that based on the people that I know that had experiences with him, he's no longer like a reliable person because he only thinks about the cash and exclusivity. And I heard that he even has charged people in crypto to be with him and to have access to his information. That's not the way I think you should be going about doing this. But that's just my opinion. I know there's a lot of division about Dr. Stephen Greer and the work he's done, what he is right now in the face of the UFO community. Generally, the people that don't trust Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon are the ones that side with Greer. If you ask me, and I'm being completely honest here, I trust none of them. I don't think that Greer has the answers as much as I don't think Lou Elizondo or Christopher Mellon have the answers. None of them do. Anybody who blindly trusts any of them is making a huge mistake, because the first thing you need to do instead of trusting someone else is doing your own research and trying to find out for yourself what is going on. That is what the majority of people who have access to good information have done. So I recommend you guys do the same. Go through archives, do FOIA documents, go through videos, go through sources, interview people. That's the way to do it. It is not by trusting someone else. Don't trust me either, though. I'm only reporting on this stuff, and I can get a lot of stuff wrong. I constantly say this, and I'm pretty sure I get a lot of stuff wrong. So do your own research. This is one of the advice that Richard Dolan gave me that was, I think, perfect for the people. You guys need to do your own research. Don't trust blindly on anyone. Let me know what you think in the comments about this Dead Man's Trigger. Who else do you think has one of these? I would go with Ross Coulthart. I would go with some of the military people that have spoken up. And one last thing that I'm going to say. This other topic is a little bit more sensitive because yesterday something weird happened. Mr. Jason Sands, who appeared on the James Fox documentary, The Program, his interview came out, and it was part of the film. And there were many reactions to this, but then on the next day, Jason Sands came out on Ryan's podcast, the Post Disclosure podcast, and he claims that this shadow government made him kill aliens. I don't know what's going on with that. That's a wild claim. All I know is that Jason Sands went on Twitter to respond to questions. The same thing happened the last time he came out, and he answered to every single question. He was grilled by debunkers, by skeptics about this, and he answered to everything. He didn't back out. And the same thing happened yesterday. And he was insulted. He was yelled at. The ones that were the most angry at him were veterans, because veterans seem to think that the government is a monolith, some of them. And I am not disrespecting veterans at all. I think the work they do is honorable, and I think they need to be respected, and I think they need to be heard. But I also think that there is this culture within the military in the US where a lot of these veterans grow in there thinking that their military is doing the right thing. And I disagree with that. I think that, yes, there are those who have great intentions and they work honorably for the military and for the American people. But I also think, and this happens in every military, not just in the American one, I also think that there are other parts of the military that are corrupt. And these SAPs tend to be the most corrupt because they don't have a law. They don't follow laws. They have licenses to kill. They can pretty much go anywhere in the world. They have jurisdiction everywhere. And I think that there's like cognitive dissonance between these veterans who did their job honorably, which I completely agree with that, and these black programs that they keep insisting it's impossible for the military to operate in this way. How would you know? You're not part of these SAPs. You know the protocols, the official ones, yes, and you're very knowledgeable at them, yes, but you can't say definitively you're lying or this is not true. This is not how they operate because you're not privy to everything. That is the reality. And I know that some of these veterans who turned into debunkers have this stance of the government says it's not true, therefore it's not true. Why would you take that stance in favor of the one organism that is hiding secrets from not just the American population, but the rest of the world? Why? Please explain it to me because I really have a hard time understanding the logic that you guys use to justify a lot of the horrible stuff that the American military has done over decades in foreign countries and potentially these SAPs. So yeah, I can see why you're angry at Jason Sands. I can see why you would think he is lying, but please understand that you are also not aware of everything that's going on in your military. Therefore, you can't say that's not definitively true because you don't really know. And I'm sorry, but I had to say this because yesterday I saw Jason answering every single question, taking some of the most horrible insults I've heard him take. And he didn't flinch. He didn't say a thing. He actually was compassionate towards these military people who a lot of them I get must have some severe PTSD due to what they experience over there. And I really feel for them, but they need to understand they're not aware of everything your military does. There's even stuff that I've experienced here in Tijuana from your military that you guys are, I'm pretty sure you're not aware that they have done. And I'm just saying, you guys need to learn how to read the room, really. If you're going to question someone like Jason, who you believe with all your heart that he's wrong, you need to be a little more open to potentially being wrong about some things because you may be. And I think that just yelling and insulting someone when you're trying to debate them, I don't think that is going to take us anywhere. So I commend Sands for not losing his cool as many of you did. I hope that you can have a different conversation without losing your cool, because I think that will be the only way that you guys can reach a certain level where you can see eye to eye. But yeah, that happened. Jason also talked about some really incredible stuff that honestly I don't believe either. He said that one of these aliens killed a child. He said that women and children are kept in caves. He said some really, really disturbing stuff. I'm going to leave the link to that space in the description so you guys can check it out. I'm not going to play it here, but you guys can check it out. You can see how a lot of people really put him through the ringer and he didn't back out. And that says a lot about him, regardless of whether he's lying or not. I'm pretty sure he believes what he's saying. Whether that's true or not, that's a different story. But and this also ties into some of the stories that the bigwigs have been talking about that are coming out in January and February. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I really hope it's not true, because if it is, shit gets really dark. And a lot of people who are like not even aware of this, even though they're aware of the UFO topic, are going to be really disturbed by some of this stuff if it is true. I hope it's not. But yeah, be aware of, I'm telling you, the big wigs that have teased stuff. Something could come out. I'm not saying it is. I still take it with a grain of salt, because it keeps happening that they say, watch this space, watch this channel next year, next month, next week, and nothing happens. We know this. But still, let's keep an eye out, see what happens, okay? And please respect each other. It doesn't cost you anything, really. So let me know what you think about this Dead Man's Trigger from Dr. Stephen Greer. What do you think about the drone situation? What do you think they are? Do you think they could potentially have this capability of morphing or transforming? That's interesting. That gives me the John Keel vibes from Operation Trojan Horse, where he says that they have mimicry. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not. And let me know what you think about the Sands story. What do you think about what he said? I want to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. Please, if you like the content you see, like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon. And if you want to support the channel in any other way, I'm going to leave a few links in the description. Take your pick. Thank you for the support. And that's all I got for today. I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video for a surprise interview about the Nazca mummies. It's a scientific one, so stay tuned. Bye.